Honestly, this work, when we started it, it always started with the student and the student's experience. It always starts here. And it's not about a building. It's not about having the most contemporary curriculum. It's not about being the most amazing tech savvy teacher. It's about the student experience. And when they have needs, are we able to go into our pedagogical toolbox and meet those needs? So that's the mission. And to what extent does our current mission statement articulate that? What do our mission statements say about that student experience? Or is it about who we are as a school? Because if my mission statement is all about me as a school, then that tells me something about where my focus is. So that language, the language we use matters. So I challenge us to really look at our statements, our decisions, our choices. So the 3 rings I showed you were really all about decision making. How do you and I decide? What are we going to teach? How are we going to teach it? Why are we teaching it? When we're making decisions about our practice and our art and our craft, and I usually separate it into the science of what we do and the art and craft of what we do. When I'm making decisions about that, where is my motivation and my focus for that? So when we examine our practices, and this came from the work that Heidi and I did in Bold Moves, we realized that a lot of our work can be sorted or spoken about using these 3 categories. And we have found it very helpful when we're trying to think about how are we making our decision or why are we making a decision in a certain way. Some things in our practice can be described as antiquated, meaning maybe we do it out of habit. Maybe it's something that's very familiar, it's known, but there's no evidence that it works particularly better than any other choice or decision. Some of the things that we do can be categorized as classical. And this is one of my personal favorites in the sense that it's something that is known and familiar, so there's no adult learning, but it works. We know it works. There's tremendous evidence that it works. And so it's a reflection of identity, and it's something that we want to keep. So when you and I are addressing a need for a group of students because of a situation, and we're going to go into contemporary or innovative mindset, we want to protect the classical. You don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater is one of those sayings that we put with it. So what is it about our practice that's classical and so should be identified, spoken about, and protected? Another word language for us to use when we're describing our practices and what we do when we're making these decisions is contemporary. And the thing about contemporary is that it's something that involves adult learning. It's something where you and I as practitioners, scientists and artists in our craft, we need to learn it as an adult learner. So we have to think about that and own that. But it's proven practice. So it's not an experiment. It's not something where we're saying, oh gosh, I wonder if this works. It's something that's proven practice. And so we sit here and go, there's evidence that this is something I should be talking about. This is something that is a possible solution for what my students need. But I'm going to have to wrap myself around what kind of learning am I going to have to do to make that happen. And so using this language, we start to look at, I love this image. This is an image from a known time. We're familiar with this. There's something warm and fuzzy about what's going on here. But what are the roles? What are some of the tools we see? What are some of the behaviors? And I love this one too. This one's a job description from the 1800s. Give me a quick thumbs up when you're done reading. But these are some of those expectations and commitments that existed when that was what the need was of the learners. You and I are now in a very different time. And so the job, the expectation, and the tools have changed and adjusted. But I can't tell you how helpful it's been to be able to really sit down with my colleagues and talk about things as being antiquated or habit, something unproven. What's classical? What's our identity? What are we going to keep? What's contemporary? Maybe what's something that I'm going to need to create? Maybe something I'm going to need to learn. But I know why I'm doing it, because it's for the student, the empty chair. So these are some of the examples of the classical commitment. When we've done this work, there are some parts of the job description that have not changed. They just haven't. Teachers are communicators. We connect sections of our community, and we represent a relationship, a caring relationship, a nurturing relationship with the learner. We have to plan. We're planners. We don't follow things prescriptively, blindly. We are planners. We think it through. We're a knowledge source. I know that the idea of us just being the repository of all knowledge, no, that's not the case. But we are a knowledge source, okay? We are there for the student to facilitate knowledge building, okay? So this is the classical commitment. This has not changed. But a lot of things have changed, or a lot of things are on the way to changing. People are talking about making major changes to our physical space, our schedule, how we're grouping adults and learners. So what's new? What's going on? We've learned that the students, learners, create and share knowledge differently, neurologically in the brain. And this is not a session on the brain science behind what's happening. This is also not a session on the sociology behind what's happening. But it is true that there is a difference in the building and storing of knowledge in the brain. So what that has done is it's created a contemporary learner. And we can talk about a contemporary learner having these skills. Now, I want to be very, very clear here. These are the skills we want our learners to have, meaning just because they have access, no, I'm not. They have access to information. That does not mean they are professional curators of that information. Just because children can look things up on an internet doesn't mean that they're good at being critical about the information that they're getting. They are ambassadors, but are they effective ambassadors? So we have to be really thoughtful about how does our curriculum, how does our instruction build this opportunity for these students? So if this is the new learner, what is the expectation and the opportunity now for a contemporary teacher, a contemporary educator? And in building that, the classical builds the contemporary. I can't stress this enough. The idea of making sure that we don't lose the identities of our schools and our curriculums just to be contemporary, but to build upon them and push them into that contemporary mission and contemporary thinking and skills.